Welcome back. I have a great recipe for you today. Today we are making chocolate-covered cherries. I have been making these for years at Christmas and around the holidays. All right, I'm headed out to pick up a few ingredients. All right, let's see. We need butter. We need milk chocolate. Now, if you want to use dark chocolate or white chocolate, that's fine. We also need vanilla extract, paraffin wax. Now back home, I already have powdered sugar, my 3 tablespoons of milk, and the most important ingredient, the maraschino cherries. Now this is a pretty big jar. It has 30 to 35 cherries in it. All right, grab your notebook and a pencil, and we'll begin. Now the first thing I'm going to do is grab my jar of cherries, and I'm going to drain that in a strainer over top of a bowl. There's a stem. Get that out. Okay, I'm going to set that aside. Before I start mixing anything, I always grab 2 small pans that need to be small enough to place in my freezer. I cover these with parchment paper so the candy will not stick, and that way it will be easy to be lifted from the paper. Or you can always use a plate or a dish. Just grease it with some butter and set it aside. I'm using some softened butter. Make sure to leave that on the counter ahead of time before you start. Now I'm using 5 tablespoons of butter. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're batch making these, you'll want to double the recipe. If you're making them to give at Christmas or any holiday. Now I'm using a mixer for this recipe, but you could stir this by hand. I'm just blending the butter, and then I'm going to add in my milk. You can use up to 3 tablespoons, but I start with 1 and add a little if I need it. I'm adding in my vanilla. You can add up to 3 teaspoons of vanilla. It gives it a really good flavor. Now I'm going to start to add in my powdered sugar, just a little bit at a time. I'm going to start to add in my sugar. I'm using 3 cups of sugar. Now I'm going to alternate mixing sugar with the butter until I use up my powdered sugar. If you see it's getting too crumbly or thick, add in another tablespoon of milk will help. Make sure you're using a spatula to scrape down the sides to get that powdered sugar in there. I just keep alternating powdered sugar, mix it until it's all well incorporated. Now my batter has started to get crumbly and dry, so I'm going to add in some more milk to help thin it out a little bit. Now you can add as much as you need to make it the consistency that you want. I added 2 more tablespoons to this because it was a little crumbly. Now that's the last of my powdered sugar. Now my batter is finished. Now the fun part is scraping it off of the beaters and off of the spoon. So I just use a knife and a spatula for that. Next I just stir it up a little bit and I check my consistency. Again, if it needs a little bit more milk, you can add a little bit more milk and stir it in. Now it's going to be a thick consistency because those cherries are a little bit wet. So that's good because we want it to go all the way around the cherry. So we're going to put this in the fridge for about 30 to 45 minutes. Just the refrigerator, and let it chill a little bit. While my mixture is chilling in the refrigerator, I'm going to go ahead and get my paraffin ready. Now remember, if you don't have this or you don't want to use this, you don't have to, but you probably will need another bag of chocolate. And I have maybe a little bit less than a quarter of paraffin wax that I'm going to use in the actual chocolate. Now, you don't have to use this if you don't want to. You can use way less. I just like the way that it gives such a fancy shine and it thins the chocolate. So I'm going to go ahead and shred this up so it'll already be ready while I'm waiting. I'm down to this little piece and I don't want to cut my hands, so I'm just going to throw this in the garbage. So this is all done and ready to go. So I'm going to set this aside for when I start warming up my chocolate. Okay, I've had this chilling for about 30 minutes. So I'm going to grab me a little piece and I'm going to flatten it out a little bit, like this. And I'm going to grab a cherry, put it right in the middle, and then I'm going to wrap that around like this till I can't see it anymore. And I'm going to roll it a little bit. Now the cherries do have a little bit of liquid on them, which is fine because we want some of that flavor in this without stirring it in. So I'm going to put it over here on my pan. Flatten out a piece. Don't want to put too much on it because remember we're putting chocolate on top of it and we don't want it to be too big. Don't want to make a bar of candy, just a little piece. If you see it's starting to get too sticky, you can pop it back in the refrigerator and let it chill for 10 or 15 minutes. I will get a little bowl of powdered sugar and set it aside so that I can dip my hands in it if it gets too sticky. And I'm going to continue this process until I get it all done. Okay. So far I've got 24. I'm going to pop this in the freezer. Now you can cover those with plastic wrap if you want to before you pop them in the freezer. All right, this is the last one. Okay, I finished these. Now there's a total of 35 that I've got done. So I'm going to pop these in the freezer as well. Okay, I've got my double boiler on. I'm heating that up. I'm going to keep that on medium low and I'm going to watch it because sometimes it can get too hot and you don't want it to do that. And I'm getting ready to add my chocolate. Now let's talk about chocolate just for a second. Now I'm using Hershey's milk chocolate for this because I wanted a milk chocolate coating. But now if you wanted a semi-sweet or a darker chocolate, you could use that as well. So either one will work. But I'm going to go ahead and add my chocolate in and let it get to melting. I'm adding in my paraffin wax shavings. Now while I'm waiting on my chocolate to melt, I always get out a paper towel and I put 8 to 10 toothpicks because that's what I'm going to use to put the chocolate on. And I have my spoon. Now if you, by the time you get finished, if you have too much chocolate, you have some left over, you can actually store that in a glass container with a lid. Something like this with a lid, and you can use it in a different recipe. Okay, I'm going to stir this up. It's starting to melt. Okay, it looks like it's ready to go, and I'm going to get out my chocolate-covered cherries. I'm going to turn down my heat just a little bit. It's steaming. I've got my toothpick, and I'm going to grab the first one, and then I'm going to cover that with some chocolate. Cover it with chocolate. Now let the excess drip off because I need to make sure I have enough for all of them. And again, if you're not using wax, you're probably going to want to use an extra chocolate. You see those little toothpick holes? All you have to do to get rid of those is just dab it with the top of your spoon or let some of the chocolate drizzle off onto it. Remember, all you do is put that toothpick down in the top and you twist it around the whole time you're spooning chocolate over the top. Make sure you get the bottom. And then again, I go back over top of the little toothpick hole. I'll either drip some chocolate on there from another ball, or I'll come in with my spoon and do that. Now I'm going to repeat that process until all of my chocolate covered cherries are covered with chocolate. And I'll just twist my toothpick to get it back out. Keep an eye on your chocolate. I had to turn mine off because it was too hot. Trust that spoon. All right, I've got my first batch done. I'm going to get the next one. Now, as you can see, I have a little dab of this chocolate left, and I am going to save that because I'm making some others. I'm going to pour that into my dish. I'm going to put a lid on it, and I'm going to put it in the fridge. Now, here's our finished chocolate-covered cherries. I made about 35. So I'm going to come back, and I'm going to serve these up. Here is our delicious chocolate-covered cherries. They turned out beautifully. That milk chocolate with that buttery vanilla coating gives these a great taste surrounding that juicy maraschino cherry center. These are one of my mom's favorite kind of candies as well as my family's. These are perfect to give as gifts as well. And I'm going to show you how I set these up to give as gifts right after I give these a taste test. So good. Okay, now I've got this little container that I'm going to put these in. You can pick these up pretty much anywhere around the holidays in different sizes. I bought these little mini cups. They're little mini baking cups, but you can use them like if you're giving someone peanut butter balls and chocolate covered cherries. This way you'll know which one's which. And I cut a little piece of parchment by going by the bottom of the container. And then you just keep putting them in there like this. Now I'd put my peanut butters over here on this side, and then the next recipe I would put right here. I like to have a variety when I give some to people. I got my little box together, and you can give someone just a nice little few sweet treats if you want. And just close them up like this. Even wrap them up. Thank you for being with me today. I hope you and your family enjoy this recipe, and I hope it becomes one of your favorites. If you like this recipe, check out my peanut butter balls recipe. Don't forget to like and subscribe for many more great recipes coming up, and check out some of the other videos on my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.